Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Dealing with a Karen is completely infuriating, but gosh, does it feel good to call them out. Today in rLounge, Karens meet their match. Up first, a father who just really needed a hand, or two. The original Karen, 1976, gets her car shoved in a ditch by construction workers. This may be the wrong category. If it is, just let me know. This story takes place in late fall 1976. I was 11 years old and never missed the bus to school. This day missed the bus, and my dad said he was too busy to drive me the 20 miles to school. I stayed home, worked on my schoolwork, and did some chores around the farm. This year, we had a very wet spring, so crops went in late. So my dad is out in the field harvesting field corn. It was getting close to noon, so we go in the house and start lunch, knowing my dad will be coming in for lunch any time. By 12:30, he isn't in for lunch. This man had a stomach you could set a clock by. I head out towards the field to see why he's late. I see him staggering towards the house like he's drunk. I wasn't alarmed, just wondering what was going on. Why is he walking like that? He's finally a few feet from me and raises his forearms towards me. It took a few seconds to understand the blood all over his clothes and the fact his arms no longer had hands on them. He had the presence of mind to have shoved both hands into the bucket of axle grease we had by the machine shed. I ran into the house, grabbed the keys, and get him into the truck. I had been driving around the farm and back roads for a couple years now. We set off for the nearest hospital, in a 20-year-old farm truck with a 3 on the tree. It is about 30 miles from where we lived. It just so happens there is a river with a drawbridge you have to cross to get into this town. They are in the process of building a higher bridge and getting rid of the drawbridge. So as you can imagine, they have moved the original road, narrowed the lanes, and all the usual construction stuff. I get about a mile from the bridge and traffic is at a dead stop. The bridge is up for an approaching barge. My dad is in the seat moaning and going in and out of consciousness. So I'm in our farm truck and pull off the road. I start driving through the construction area to get to the head of the line for bridge traffic. I'm honking like an idiot, waving my hand. The workers are yelling but moving aside. One guy pulls his truck across in front of me and jumps out, cussing me out. I later found out he was the foreman. I had to stop when he blocked me because of Caterpillar tractors on each side. He comes to the door, yanks it open, ready to kill me. He saw my dad and yanked me from the seat, threw me in the bed of the truck, and is screaming in his radio. This man was doing about a dozen things simultaneously. His workers are running ahead of the truck to where the line of cars are. He's on the radio, telling the bridge operator to stop the barge and lower the bridge. Not in a minute, do it now. All this probably took him a minute or 2 minutes. To me, it was only a moment. He drives the truck up to the bridge. He comes to the original Karen. This lady is burned into my memory. She is driving a Cadillac, huge bleach beehive hairdo, cigarette in her claws, and the witchiest face I have ever seen. The construction guys have been telling her to back up and move so they can get the truck onto the bridge. They explained injured man in the truck. I hear this bleached cow yell she doesn't care. The injured man can wait. She needs to get to her beauty appointment. The foreman tells her he will use a Caterpillar to move her if she doesn't move willingly. She refuses, stating "Do you know who my husband is?" At that point, our truck about 2 inches from the side of her car, my dad holds up his hands. She apparently saw the blood, grease, and the fact that his hands aren't there. She faints. The foreman and his guys put her car in neutral and push it into a ditch. The foreman drives us to the hospital. He's also on his radio telling whoever he is talking to that he wants the cops there to arrest her and her car towed for putting someone's life in jeopardy. I don't know what all happened to her. I do know this foreman was a force of nature. So that is my story of dealing with the original Karen that spawned all the current Karens. Since I'm guessing some will ask, my dad's sleeve got caught on the gears of a corn picker when he was working on it, without turning it off. Once his right hand went in, he tried to pull it out with his left hand. He ended up spending several months in the hospital and many operations. In the end, he lost his right hand completely. He lost everything on his left hand but his thumb. He lived another 30 years after that. Let's see how the community responds. First up, Jesus H. Christ. Well done, you. The OP replies, Not well done me, I was a dumb kid. That foreman was the true hero. He stayed at the hospital until my mom arrived a couple hours later. Then he ducked out. He would only give my mom his first name. He told her no need to thank him, he only did what anyone would have done. That man was the epitome of a genuinely good soul. Response back, Come on, don't be modest. You drove a vehicle on roads at 11 years old. Don't know how you even reached the pedals with your grievously injured father possibly dying beside you. I'm glad Dad made it out and had a full life. The OP replied, I had been driving on the farm and dirt roads for a couple years by then. I had driven a time or two on paved multi-lane roads. Someone else responds, bloody hell, what a read that was. I don't know where to start. Your poor, poor dad. You amazing kid at 11 driving him like you did, that incredible foreman, and that woman. I'm sorry for your father. It's one hell of an accident. The OP replied, actually, the accident wasn't the biggest problem. My mother was. She had warned him repeatedly for years not to work on machines while they were running. My dad was like most men at the time and ignored her because he knew better than her. His best friend always told him only city boys wasted time turning machines on and off when working on them. My mother kept pointing out that his friend was an idiot, missing parts of fingers and both his hands. I do give my mom credit to the best of my knowledge. She never actually said, I told you so, to my dad. Whoa. You had me on the edge of my seat, OP. Although it's awful what happened to your father, I'm so glad to hear he was able to live on after that. I can't imagine how scary that would have been for you, but you did all the right things. Thank goodness you missed that bus. Seems very serendipitous. If you hadn't have been there, who knows what would have happened to your father. As for Karen, she's a whole different level of cold and selfish in order to not move out of the way even after hearing someone is injured. Nobody's beehive is that important. What do you make of all this? Next up, nobody rides for free. Entitled Parent says, free ride, not good enough. First post. Sorry, a long one. Happened a couple years ago. New family moved in, couple of doors down, with son same age as my youngest. We live in the boondocks, 3 kilometers from the nearest school bus stop. All parents drive their kids to the stop and wait in the car until the bus comes. There are no street lights, with bears and cougars. After a while, we got to be friendly. Even though the mom was loud and spoke aggressively, the rest of my family didn't like her. And we discussed our transportation plans. I'm lucky enough to have a brother with a disability who takes kids to the bus when my husband and I work. My neighbor, EN, entitled neighbor, asked if my brother would consider picking up her son as well on the way by, and she would pay him $20 a month. He agreed and was feeling pretty proud of having a job. 2 months later, he told me that she then offered more pay, $40 a month. He was very pleased about that. Being in the boonies, we had to drive down their very dark, narrow driveway, then turn around in a very small area in front of their house to go back out. It was difficult. If my brother wasn't feeling well, other family members took driving duty and picked up the other child. No matter what. Our whole family was happy to help my brother with his job. Sometimes the child was sick and they didn't let us know. Sometimes he was still asleep and we were waiting. Sometimes the parents were even at home and they didn't take their own child. The parents always left earlier and the child, around 8 to 10 years, was left alone until we arrived for pickup. This went on for almost 2 years. The second year, she contacted us and offered to bring over a cheesecake at Christmas time to thank my brother. I said that was very kind, but she didn't have to. I'm sure my brother would like it. I can't eat dairy, but very kind. She said non-dairy. I said again, not necessary, but a kind thing. She never brought over anything, not even a card. My brother got no contact from her directly to be thanked at all. So one day, I get a text from the entitled neighbor that she wasn't happy with her son riding in our work truck to and from the school bus, that there were tools that had to be moved over so he could sit. I was flabbergasted. We all live on a steep hill, so having a big truck with 4x4 is the safest vehicle we owned. Snow, ice, rain, you name it. The drive took less than 10 minutes. So what if we had to push tools out of the way so he could sit? I was fuming over her presumption when I had a conversation with my brother about her paying you $40 a month, and he told me that she only paid him twice, or maybe 3 times. Been in a few years, can't remember exactly. The whole time. I never paid him $40 at all. It was the $20 payments. I was furious that he hadn't mentioned it before, and that she had been taking advantage of the whole family for almost 2 years. Our family had bent over backwards for this child. Even if my own child wasn't going to school, we would get up and go get the neighbor's child. So I texted the entitled neighbor. So I just talked to my brother, and he told me you have only paid him 2 or 3 times this last 2 years? Can you please explain? I'm confused. The agreement was $20 a month, then you offered $40. What's going on? The entitled neighbor responds, I can't remember her exact words, but no apology, no offer of payment, and I offered to bring you a cheesecake at Christmas, but you said you didn't want one. I didn't say that. I said she didn't have to. Me, humble country person, I fully expected her to bring one. I then told her we were, under no circumstances, going to continue this way. I said payment had to be made. We had to be given notice if child is not going to school, that he had to meet us at the top of his driveway instead of battling down their drive, that if the parents were home, they took him, and we still were going to be taking our work truck most of the time. I didn't want to deal with that family anymore, so I just said every demand that I could think of, knowing her personality would blow up. The entitled neighbor. He'll, her child, get picked up at our door if I say he's going to be picked up at our door. I know there was no way that they were going to back pay the fees, as they were constantly complaining about money. So I said, well, this is not working for us, so you will have to make other arrangements, as we will no longer be driving your son. So consider the last 15 months, excluding summer, Christmas breaks, etc., a gift from our family to yours, and we'll just leave it there. The entitled neighbor. How are we supposed to get our son to the bus? We need someone to drop him off and pick him up at the end of the day. We will be at work. Why are you being such a hard butt? I ignored her and blocked her. Didn't speak to her family for years. I was furious at her outrageous entitlement. My friend said it best. What pisses me off the most is people who get something for free, then feel entitled to it for free, then complain that what they are getting for free isn't good enough for them anymore. The family changed their son's school back to the private school he had before that was closer to their work. Edit. I remember more now. Her response to my asking about the payment was, well, he never asked for it. Your best friend is right. People get used to too much of a good thing. I'm sorry your brother was used like that. He sounds like such a good person and didn't deserve to be walked all over. He was doing it out of the goodness of his heart. And for her to think that after all of that, a cheesecake would suffice? Get a grip, lady. It's not your responsibility to figure out how her child is getting to school. It's hers. Do you have a similar story? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for following along today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to share regarding today's content, we want to hear it. See you soon.